Good morning and welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead. Last weekend I made beef bone broth and I canned 7 quarts of that, and I have a bunch left. And rather than can all of this, which is one way that I preserve it, I'm actually going to freeze dry this. So I poured it in this container. I wanted the fat to separate because fat does not freeze dry well. It will shorten the shelf life of your food, your freeze dried food. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that there really isn't much fat in here. So I'm going to skim off the little bit that's in here. And then we are going to get 4 cups of broth per freeze dryer tray. So I'll get 16 cups in all, as long as there's enough in here. I can fit 4 cups per tray. I have the original medium Harvest Right freeze dryer. So each of these trays will hold 4 cups. So let me show you what's in here, and then we're going to go over to the freeze dryer because I am not going to pretend that I can carefully carry a full tray of liquid without spilling it and load it into the freeze dryer. So here's what we're looking at, and as you can see, there really isn't that much fat in there. I did do a pretty good job of skimming it off before we canned it. So I'm just going to use a slotted spoon and just pick up the pieces, and we'll throw those away. If I were to leave these in here, it would probably shorten the shelf life of freeze-dried bone broth from 30 years down to 10 or 15. So we're just going to make sure that we get as much out as we can just to ensure the longevity in the pantry. There we go. That looks pretty good. It's not going to be 100% fat-free, but it's pretty close. So I have got the freeze dryer cooling down. It takes 15 minutes. So we're going to move over to that and get this poured onto the tray while it's in the freeze dryer. Freeze dryer has cooled down, and it says go ahead and load the trays. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to preload all of the empty trays. And I'm going to push them in far enough that I know it's stable and pour the liquid right onto the tray. And I'm just watching the side of the tray until it gets to just under the very rim. And I know that that is 4 cups. It's hard to tell, but it's not quite up to the top of the rim. So we're just going to put that tray in. The machine is telling me I can load the trays into the freeze dryer, which I did, and then to close the drain valve. So let's do that. That's here. All we have to do is turn it to a closed position and then hit continue. So this is now freezing. Once it's done freezing, it's going to sublimate or extract all of the liquid, leaving behind just the dry broth. Then it will go into a drying phase, and then it will go into an extra dry cycle. As I've mentioned, I always have mine set for an extra 9-hour dry cycle just to be absolutely certain that things are bone dry. I can probably shorten that with bone broth because I'm not trying to penetrate through anything thick. In any case, we'll be back when this is done. 36 hours later, and we have bone broth. It is completely dry. I'm going to get it out of the freeze dryer and I'll show you what it looks like as we get it packaged up. Here we have almost 4 quarts. The first 3 trays were 4 cups each, and the last tray was about 3 cups. So I am going to be packaging this up in quart jars with reused lids. They don't need to be new lids when you're doing dry goods. So I'm going to move these over a bit. But as you can see and hear, this is totally dry. It's amazing to see that 1 quart of liquid yielded 1 quart of dry because of the moisture that was taken out. But that just goes to show you what all the good stuff that is in bone broth. It's not all liquid. I am going to take an oxygen absorber and put them in each of these jars because I don't know how long they'll be in storage. I still have quite a bit of canned broth on the shelf as well. I'm just going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to write on the front of the jar, this one is 4 cups beef bone broth. That's how I mark all my jars. I don't bother with labels unless the contents of the jar are so dark that I can't read what I would write on there. So this will wash off with soap and water after I use the jar and wash the jar. And this is a 3 cup. Three cups of beef bone broth. And there we have it. Now this is ready to use. I'll probably put the 3 cup in my kitchen and the other 3 in my pantry. This will be great. I can use this to flavor anything that I am cooking. I can use it to make gravy, or I can reconstitute this into an actual base for soup, or even just as a sipping liquid if I'm not feeling well. Bone broth is a wonderful addition to your pantry. It's so healing and so healthy for you, and it is so easy. There is some time invested in the actual making of it, but it is so worth it. And then if you can preserve it either by canning, by dehydrating, or by freeze drying, you can have it for both the near term and your long term storage. Thank you for watching another Freeze Dry Friday. My name is Kelly, and I hope you come back and visit soon.